All right. I'm going to ask you a question, right? I'll tell you the teams so that you don't have to do any research. So you are an Eastern Conference team, all right? And you're in the top four. Which team out of the bottom four would you like to face out of these options? The Knicks, the Nets, the Heat, or the Hawks? If you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
Probably the Nets.
Right. Now, the Nets are the seventh seed. So if you are the best team in the East and you finish first, you do not get to have the team that you perceive to be the easiest. You actually get the Hawks. Now, it's not about comparing things, but where I'm going with this, what if the seeding for 1 to 4 was about picking your opponent? And that was the motivation to do well in the regular season. So the first seed could pick the perceived opponent that was the weakest or easiest to beat or the matchup favorite. And then the second pick can pick, and then the third pick picks. And then obviously the fourth is the default matchup. This could, A, promote more competitiveness in the regular season to get the top seed so that you can dictate your matchups. But B, it could promote a little bit more competitiveness from the bottom seed because they might be sitting there saying, hey, like, we don't think that we're as bad as you perceive us to be, or we think that we can beat you. And there's a little bit of that chip on the shoulder that goes into a playoff series before it's even began. Thoughts?
I I don't mind your idea. This would be revolution, a revolution in sports, right? It would be something never done before, like in any sports. I can't think of a single sport in any format, individual sports or team sports, where you could choose who you play. Imagine, like, say, tennis. Yeah, you could just have the 32 players choose who they want to play for the first round at the Oz Open because they're just going to choose the crappiest player or the player they think they have the best chance of beating. That would be pretty crazy. I think, though, that probably is the first step where it's never going to happen. And it's never going to happen because I guess it also eliminates a whole sort of seeding goal or positional goal between the fifth to eighth seed and where they're trying to end up at the end of the season. Effectively, at this point, what you're saying in this sort of format is the fifth to eighth seed teams don't really care where they end up because they could be picked by any team to play anywhere anyway, whether they finish fifth or eighth, it wouldn't matter. They might as well just rest the players. If I'm now locked in the fifth, I might as well rest my players for the next 4 games. I don't care where I end up. I don't care whether I finish fifth or eighth. It depends which team's going to pick me.
I guess I understand from a competitive standpoint that teams would lose interest once they know their official seeding. I still think that issue exists anyway. And let's be honest, statistically speaking, we assume that the top four seeds go through to the second round. So fifth to eighth very much is quite tokenistic. And if an eighth seed theoretically is to go through to the finals, they never play a home game and they're always at a perceived disadvantage. So I think this is more to promote competitiveness really in the top three seeds and create those storylines. So if I'm the eighth seed, but I ended up getting picked by the fourth seed, then that's advantageous. So it is kind of good to be in that position. And people may avoid me based on the storylines that are occurring. They might pick me for a lot of different reasons. I think you can't get a perfect balance in it, right? But there's also some respect to the fact that the team that's going to win the championship very rarely a part of their narrative is the first round an important one or a competitive one. It is very much a formality. It is very much them getting their rhythm and them picking their own opponent. I don't like, let's say we did an alternative timeline here. I don't think the statistics of the first round would change too much, but it would just add that extra narrative flair of a bit of trash talk, a bit of competitiveness, a bit of rivalry that's brewing, picking that. Or you might even find a weird thing. Maybe teams would pick the strong team to eliminate them in the first round to keep them out of the second round. So there is some strategic things that could occur here. But I guess as we're talking it through, it really does only give advantage to the top 2 to 3 teams. But like again, like shake it up. I just, the play-ins definitely work to keep teams more competitive. But now we're kind of seeing, outside of home court, what is the advantage towards doing really well for 82 games?
Look, I guess considering you're trying to change sports as a global, structure here, I'm going to say that you're not going to have much success there. But you actually touched upon one of my topics this week. So why not let's go into it now, is that the play-in, I love the play-in. I don't know about what you think. I think the play-in has been a huge success for the NBA. The biggest disappointment is, I don't know if you look at the standings at times, it's not currently presented on the standings very well. They're still listing 1 through to 8 when it should be listed 1 through to 10 or some level of 1 through to 6, and then PI for play-in for teams 7, 8, 9, and 10. But look, I think it's great that this format has obviously kept more teams competitive to the last final weeks. Right now, there's still teams playing for that play-in spot. Whether they won it or not is another story. But I think it's been a good improvement. I was a bit skeptical at the start, but I guess it's bad luck. You finish 7th to 10th now. You better win those 1 or 2 games, otherwise your season's done.
Well, now that we're on, I guess, the topic of the play-in, yes, competition, extending it out to 10 teams instead of just 8, understanding that it still doesn't really change the outcome for the 8 seed most of the time, because they are going to go on to face the 1st seed and they usually get eliminated. It leads into an interesting point, and I want your thoughts on this. Should the play-in game count towards playoff statistics?
Does it at the moment or not?
No, so it's in a very weird limbo, and it's probably just a teething thing of being new, but it's not a regular season game, but it's not the playoffs yet. So the playoffs have this weird buffer now where the regular season ends, and then we do the play-in for like 4 days or 3 days, and then the playoffs officially begin. So it actually sits in the middle, and neither of those 2 statistics or games or accolades actually count for anything.
I like stats, and I think stats should be recorded, and I would say that it should count for the playoffs. I think
Yeah.
it's a little bit of like I said, I think it's here to stay. I think the first few years they tried it, and there was probably some question marks. Will this stay? Will they scrap it? Will it be successful? I think overwhelmingly, fans and NBA and franchises and teams are obviously, I think, would vote yes that this has been an improvement, and I would say it is here to stay. And now it's a matter of trying to wrap your head around sort of the new structure somewhat. So I think throughout the our podcast, I sort of reference playoffs and play in, but effectively, I don't know, we almost need like a new name to summarize the top 10. I don't know, in that sort of sense. But yeah, I would definitely say the stats should be recorded as playoffs.
Well, I think it's like a lot of purists say, oh, it shouldn't count for their careers. But the way that I perceive it, the play-in team, I don't believe has went on to beat a first round matchup. So at best, they're getting 1 extra game towards their 4 games or 5 games that they're going to play. So I don't think it's going to muck up any career statistics things.
I think effectively you'd consider the play-in as an additional round to the playoffs. So right now you've
Yes.
got your different rounds. And so if you look back in 20 years time and you had a team or player statistics from 2023 and they played 1 game in the playoffs, and then you look further into it, that was the play-in and they were eliminated, you would go, that's why. And I think that's not that hard to comprehend.
Yeah, and I think also when you talk about the play-in and I guess representing it, yes, the 10 teams from the East and West theoretically are in the hunt for the championship when the regular season ends. So it definitely does need a tiny bit of branding of lumping those 2 achievements together or lumping those status together, because I'm sure as the years progress, and maybe not in our lifetime, but theoretically, maybe we have a lockout season. Maybe it's a weird one, because that's how the 8th seed eventually got to the finals, all those years ago. Maybe finally a 10th seed does win the championship in a weird lockout season. And as you're alluding to, for most of the season, they weren't in the playoff hunt.
I'm gonna say something
You
crazy
know,
now that you're gonna hate now, that wouldn't the Lakers fall in that potential category?
This is Two Guys with Spare Time. I'm Faz, this is Nick. You're probably a basketball fan like us, so hopefully you can throw us an assist in giving our video a like and subscribing to our channel.
And if you got thoughts, feelings, or even some suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And thank you for using your spare time to watch us in our spare time.